Let's talk about sales. Inevitably, you're going to have to sell your product or service.
Yep.
Some people hate the idea of sales. So let me ask you this. Would you agree with me if I said we are all in sales? Zach, would you agree with me with that?
Well, yeah, 100%.
Now, I'll give you some examples that I'm sure you've experienced and executed at some point in time, even if you don't agree with that statement. Here's a bullet point list here. I've had to sell a friend to go to a concert with me. I've had to sell my wife on a first date. I had to sell my wife to marry her or marry me. I've had to sell my kids to take a bath. I've had to sell my kids to read a book with me. I've had to, and at times I still have to sell my wife to, well, you know. So what are the key components to marketing and sales? How do some of the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders set up freedom frameworks that we all got into business for in the first place? How did they find the time, energy, and resources to launch and scale strong? And how do Rockstar entrepreneurs and business leaders with that champion mindset align their time, money, and energy in a way that will allow us to reach what we set out to achieve? These are the key questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brian Chamberlain. This is the Convert on Command podcast. Thanks for listening to the Convert on Command podcast, sponsored by Convert on Command and Mission Ignition Marketing. If you want to ignite your business and increase your sales, be sure to visit convertoncommand.pro and set up a time that works best for you in the calendar at the bottom of the page under the latest feature video.
Welcome, everyone, to Convert on Command podcast. I am your host for the day, Zach Shanky. I'm here with my business partner, Brian Chamberlain, the one and only, okay, the magnificent. So Brian has been doing some amazing things. Just side note, in terms of helping with our clients, with some of our students and things like that, just a beast mode on all of the stuff. So really excited to be here to talk about chapter 2 of Passion to Profits. Listen, guys, I wish, look, when I first started doing marketing, right, the premise was turn your passion into profits. Actually, it was become a millionaire while being lazy. It was basically the first thing that I ever signed up for was basically that, right? This is not that, right? This is how do you take something that you're passionate about and still be able to support your family financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Okay, like this is that. Maybe it won't happen in a month. Okay, maybe it'll take a year, but is it worth it? Yes. So chapter
good,
2, we're going to get into it.
Yes, and we are in draft 2. Okay, so we're in season 2 right now, draft 2. And for those that are listening for the first time, and every quarter we're doing a draft until the end of the year, and then we're releasing the book in the first quarter of 2022. And so we are in the second draft. I've got notes that I took from our Inner Circle Passion to Profits group. And, you know, we decided to write this book together, and not based on assumptions on what we know with, you know, working with clients and all that kind of stuff all over the world, but what could happen if we took a group of people that are literally in the trenches and working on this individually for themselves, and we actually help them through it. And that's what this journey has been about. And it's been so much fun and so enriching. And, you know, Zach, I think that, you know, I can't speak directly for you, but I think that we both got into this and we started to love the process of watching people's dreams unfold. Like, even for our clients, that's the whole premise of serving them and helping them with their marketing, to help them make their marketing profitable, right? So we didn't necessarily have this easy term to explain what that looks like, but it's literally helping people turn their passion into profits. And so, you know, we've had the privilege to be able to do this for our clients, and now we're doing this for an awesome group of people. Some people came into this and didn't have a clue what their passion was and started to uncover those things. Some people knew what they wanted to do, but they didn't know how to back engineer it. And like literally, I just got off the phone this morning with Jason, one of our new Passion to Profits leaders, and he's out on a shoot right now, a real estate gig he's got today. He's on a shoot and he's doing what he loves, and he's making money doing what he loves. And I'll never forget talking with Jason. When he first started, I've literally because every week we get people to log their progress. And I remember in the beginning, I'll go back at some point in time and actually pull out these videos of him saying, I honestly don't know what I'm doing. So-and-so over there is so much further ahead than I am. And I had to kind of talk to him about comparison a little bit there, but he was really down on himself, and he was down and out, and he was really thinking of quitting at one point in time. When we first met, he had been in media design for well over a decade, and he was ready to quit because he was working for he was on a news team, he was with news. And he got let go from that. He lost his job, and then he tried to monetize, and then he was stuck, and he was getting frustrated, and he felt alone, and he felt abandoned, and he felt like he was struggling. And now to watch him, it's amazing. The confidence level that this guy's got is ridiculous. And we were just talking about really kind of honing in on his offer is the next steps that we're going to be going into. So I'm really excited. But that's just my little bit of a story before we jump into the chapter right now. And listen, at the end of this, I'm going to share a link with you where you can actually get these drafts for free. Okay, so you can actually listen to these. You can listen to the videos. You can listen to the audios through the podcast. You can actually read. You can give feedback if you'd like to. And so that's what we're going to do at the end of this. We'll give you the book where it's at for free with the first draft, and then another link to the second draft and what's going on with that. So we'll keep you posted on that. So stick around. But let's dive into chapter 2, the 3 P's to profits. All right, so I'm going to dive right in with your permission there, Zach. Am I good to go?
Go for it.
Okay, so in this chapter, we're going to tie in more context from what we covered in the first chapter between the who, what, why, and how. Okay, starting with what I call the 3 P's to profits. 1 is passion, 2 is profession, and number 3 is purpose. And I actually got some feedback. I'm going to kind of jump off here for a second. I got some feedback from our inner circle group about the concept of like maybe the order should be a little different, like passion to purpose to profession. Because, and it kind of makes sense. Purpose is more important than profession. I agree with that. But what's important to understand is you have a purpose no matter what. Okay, and I think I cover that somewhere in this chapter. But the 3 P's to profit is I literally took my passion. I decided that was going to be my profession, and my purpose kind of just continued to like that fulfillment level. Just it started to soar. Okay. So that's the reason why I put that 1, 2, 3. So these 3 P's are the core keys that will help you unlock your freedom frameworks. Okay. Now you can make money without these 3 P's. Or sorry, that was supposed to be a question. Now, can you make money without these 3 P's? The answer is yes, but let me ask you a question. Do you want to live for money, or do you want money to enrich your life? If you're looking for an enriching life, this chapter will drive another level of intentionality home for you. Now, before we get into go ahead.
Hold on a minute. That is powerful. Hold on a minute. Yeah. So do you want to live for money, or do you want money to enrich your life? Listen, when I was in high school, I've always been somewhat of an entrepreneur. I used to sell like sticks of gum from my pack of 17, like just individually and make a profit off of it, stuff like that. But I remember thinking when I first got a job, my very first job at Quiznos Subs, right? I remember thinking like, hey, it's great, I'm making money, but like now I don't have as much time. Like I can't use the money to like enjoy life because I'm busy at work.
Right.
And then eventually somehow I forgot about that during my life, right? And there was a point in time where as an engineer, I was working a lot, like 60 to my top week was like 98 hours. Every single week I had to travel for my job, which a lot of people look at that and that's successful. And yeah, I was making a lot of money, but I was living for that. And there was a point in time where my relationship at home with my wife and my kids was just crumbling. And I'm like, but like, why am I even doing this job? Why am I always away from home? What's the real reason? The only reason I could come up with was money.
Yeah.
And so then logically, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm like trading my family for money right now.
Yeah.
And
You're trading your time for dollars. Yeah.
that's where I started coming back to entrepreneurship. I started coming back to, okay, I need to make a big shift. I need to drop this career and figure that out fast, or else I'm going to lose it, what's really important to me.
Right. And it's
Right.
like that concept of like, do you eat to live or do you live to eat?
Right.
Right. It's the same kind of idea. And ultimately, we're under a freedom framework. Whether we like it or not, we're under a freedom framework. Now, do you want that freedom framework to be your own freedom framework, or do you want it to be someone else's freedom framework? Because you were under someone else's system. You were a slave to someone else's system.
Yeah.
It's basically what it was. So, yeah.
They controlled it. You know, I had very little say. You know, if I said, hey, I don't want to travel during Thanksgiving, they would say, okay, well, I guess you don't want a job.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay.
And I mean, we're going through a lot of that right now. Like, without getting too political right now, the government is driving that too right now. You can't even depend on a job anymore, you know, like it's scary. And the reality is there's never been more opportunity because of it. The level of opportunity is going more and more through the roof for those that decide they're going to be creative. And I got a post I'm going to be posting here today about creativity, about the fact, and we talked about it a little bit in the last chapter. I really want to dive into it more. Started getting more ideas from the last week that we did this. The fact that we were created to be creative. And everybody's got their own unique sets of creativity of what their gifting is, that, you know, like you got a seed in you that's ready to grow and flourish. Multiple, actually, we've got multiple skill sets. I guarantee you've got more than one passion. How can you bring them all together and create something truly unique? You know what I mean? And that's what I believe that, you know, you've got, oh man, like some of us are creative when it comes to music. Some of us are creative when it comes to art. Some of us it's graphic art and design. Some are creative with their words. Some are creative with writing. Some are creative with what else? And the list goes on with cars, right? Like with hair, it could be numbers. And that's what I was going to say. Science. Some people are creative with science. Some people are creative with numbers, right? You're a very, very analytical individual. More so, like I'm not that analytical individual. Right. I'm more the communication guy and like the visual, audio, visual communications. Like that's, and you've got a good, strong grasp of that yourself. It's just not necessarily the area that you're as optimized, right? Same thing with me. I've spent enough time with you now that I could run a Facebook ad on my own. However,
you could.
I could, but this is an area that you are so passionate about that you do it on another level of from an analytical standpoint and all of those things as well, because you love spending time doing that, right? Yeah. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you should, right? So like, for example, like you might have multiple talents because delegation, that's going to give you the opportunity to be able to lead from the front and delegate that to others. I'm in that position now. You know, like I was mentored by a 3-time Emmy-nominated media designer. Does that mean I should edit every single video that comes our way for our clients and for ourselves? No. Do I still work in some of the things and do some of these things myself? Yes. I have a passion for it and I'd love to, but I know that we'll scale more if I teach others how to do the same thing and delegate that, right? So So there's so much involved with it. But anyway, let's without getting too far off of a rabbit hole here, like let's dive right back into it. So starting with what I call the 3 P's to profits. Number 1 is passion. Number 2 is profession. 3 is purpose. These 3 P's are the core keys that will help you unlock your freedom frameworks, okay? Now you can make money without these. Can you make money without these 3 P's? The answer is yes. But again, let me ask you a question. Do you want to live for money, or do you want money to enrich your life? If you're looking for an enriching life, this chapter will drive another level of intentionality home for you. Now, before we get into the 3 P's, we need to establish something really important when it comes to your entrepreneurial journey. Let's talk about sales. Inevitably, you're going to have to sell your product or service. Some people hate the idea of sales. So let me ask you this. Would you agree with me if I said we are all in sales? Zach, would you agree with me with that?
Well, yeah, 100%.
Now, I'll give you some examples that I'm sure you've experienced and executed at some point in time, even if you don't agree with that statement. Okay, here's a bullet point list here. I've had to sell a friend to go to a concert with me. I've had to sell my wife on a first date. I had to sell my wife to marry her or marry me.
Yeah.
I've had to sell my kids to take a bath. I've had to sell my kids to read a book with me. I've had to, and at times I still have to sell my wife to, well, yeah. And sometimes it's harder than others. Ha ha, boom, I went there. I had to just put a little twist in there. Let's have some fun here, y'all. I had to sell my partner, Zach, here on going into business with me. It wasn't very hard because I'm a rock star. No. But I had to sell you on reading this book or engaging with the content. Mm-hmm. Now, have you ever noticed that it's 110 times easier to sell something that you care about and happen to know a lot about? It is next to seamless when you're passionate about something. Now, if you're reading this right now, you would have heard me, if you're reading this right now, you would have heard from me personally, or you were referred from someone who knows me or gets me, etc. Right? So because my message is very clear, and I'm driving all 3 P's, passion in my profession as well as purpose, or another way of framing purpose would be intentionality. I think another way of going with that is fulfillment. So how did I find my 3 P's? And more importantly, how do you find yours? Walk with me through this chapter as I show you the secret to how I turned my passions into my profession while driving purpose into success using my skill sets and my story. The aim here is to illustrate as we go so you can do the same. Now, I'm also going to show you some practical ways to do more of the things you love with the people you love most using a simple framework at the end of this chapter. That's a promise, actually, just kind of bouncing off here for a second. I'm not sure if I fulfilled that promise yet, so bear with me here. This is a rough draft, okay? So let's get right into it. I grew up in St. Paul, Alberta, a small town in northern Alberta, Canada. I grew up in St. Paul, a small town in northern Alberta, Canada, 2 hours northeast of Edmonton. Now we're kind of out of this world with our staple UFO landing pad. Our UFO, we actually have a UFO in this town, and a UFO pizza place. And there must be something in the water because country music stars like Brett Kissel, this guy's actually opened up for guys like Garth Brooks and like Brad Paisley. Like, the kid's a beast. I actually had the honor and privilege of actually learning guitar from the same guitar teacher as him. Wow. And we went to the same school, same group. He's a little younger than me, and he's, I would go ahead and say, a lot more talented and driven in what it is that he's doing. Yeah. NHL hockey players like Kyle Brodziak and golf pros like Jamie Sidlowski. And if you don't know who Jamie Sidlowski is, that guy is like a long drive champion. Like, you can YouTube him. I'm trying to think of some of the Dude Perfect. He's been on Dude Perfect. Like, the kid is a beast.
Oh, really?
Okay? Yeah, absolute beasts. So these are all guys that seem to keep popping out of our little farm town. Now, I'm not saying I'm anything half as cool as these guys, okay? But I did drink the water too, so I think so. There's some cool stuff coming out of St. Paul. I grew up surrounded by a lot of love and support. Okay. The community was and still is incredible, but I struggled in school. I was diagnosed with a few labels growing up, starting with Asperger's syndrome early on, which is a high functioning form of autism. I wrestled with trying to figure out how to navigate through all the feelings and frustrations associated with this insatiable desire for some kind of perfect pattern while not having any control over any of it. Being an emotional guy who was uncomfortable in his own skin, I had no idea that these emotions and desires would turn into a creative strength later in life. And as a matter of fact, I grew up believing I wouldn't amount to anything, as teachers told my parents right in front of me to not expect much of yours truly. And I guess they were wrong. Thank God for that. And I just want to take a second here where I'm talking about like my emotions and my desires. They turn into creative strengths later on in life, but like my emotions drove a lot. And we talked about it in chapter 1. Like if you can grab hold of your emotions, like that's important, right? Like the one thing that my mom always did is that she never let me use these diagnoses as an excuse. So that's really important. You know, you might be going through some sort of pain. We talk about it a little bit in the last chapter, maybe a little bit in this one as well. But your pain is not a punishment; it's a platform for purpose. All right. So the key ingredients: there are 3 P's to your perpetual success: passion, profession, and purpose. And I'm going to break down these impactful P's so that you can start implementing them in your life and your business. Now, you might already have a business that you're looking to take online, and you might have no idea where to start. Either way, this is going to help you get more clarity around your direction and focus. Now, P number 1 is passion. And the definition, according to Google, I actually want to open it up because I took a screenshot here, but I want to open it up on the screen here because there's a couple of things. And we did actually go. So 1 is a strong and barely controllable emotion, okay? And 2 is the suffering and death of Jesus, the crucifixion, pain, suffering, agony. Okay? This is important. I promise you, you're going to go through all of those things as an entrepreneur, and you're going to go through that in life in general. Okay? An intense desire or enthusiasm for something, a thing arousing enthusiasm. But I just want to go on point here and just kind of point to this point number 2. Google's saying it, not me. Okay, so we are bringing up some scripture and we are kind of pointing to that. And again, it's not about religion. I just want to point out the Google is pointing this out as well. Okay, so there's your reference, right? Without getting too far into a whole lot of that. So as an entrepreneur, you would have already, or you will experience pain on your journey of turning your passion into profits. Now, this goes double for life in general. You have already or will at some point experience pain and suffering. Your passion for your profession is defined if defined properly, will help you get through those painful moments in your career. I myself have gone through some incredibly painful moments in my life and throughout my career for that matter. And I fully expect more pain at some point. I am completely at peace with the inevitability of living through pain. But how did I get to that point? Allow me to proceed from where I left off in my story. I continued to struggle well into my teens, but I found an attachment to music. I felt inspired by the guitar, and I spent hours listening to top 20 countdowns while practicing improvisation over the hottest songs using simple scales, shapes, and patterns. I connected with other musicians along the way, entered a few contests like Battle of the Bands, and experienced a few wins early on. I got to play on the same bill as some of my favorite artists, and in the process, it all went to my head. And when I say my favorite artists, I actually didn't say here, like I actually got to play at a rock festival like Stage 13 with bands like ZZ Top, Seether played there, Nickelback played there.
Wow.
Like the list goes on. I wasn't on the exact same stages as them, of course. I was on like the B stage, but that to me was a big accomplishment at that age. Like this is like just coming out of high school, right? So
Yeah.
now with that being said, it all went to my head. I got lost in drugs, alcohol, and sex. Okay. I kept falling deeper into these vices. And as my problems kept getting bigger, so did I. I was addicted to food, porn, and anything and everything damaging became my escape. I was admitted into the hospital 3 times for drug and alcohol induced psychosis. And on my third stay at the Alberta Hospital psych ward, I told myself never again. I wasn't coming back, not like this and not to this. I drew pictures of what I wanted to look like, and I wrote down the most audacious goals I could think of at the time. Now, fast forward, I'm out of the hospital, but I'm still struggling. I needed help. I've got no control over what's happening inside and outside at the time. I'm overweight. My hands and feet went numb one day. I was sick and I was scared. I went to my doctor for help. And after a few tests, he came back to share that I was hypertensive. I had high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And he said if I was to put my liver, like picture this, this is like the docs are saying to me, if I was to put your liver next to a 65-year-old man's, it would look very much the same. In other words, I was 21 on the outside, but I was 65 on the inside.
Ouch.
He also told me it's not over, that the liver is a miraculous organ and that it can heal itself if you make the right decisions. Now, I asked, what should I do next? And he said, it's simple. Start moving, right? Like, get off your ass. Let's go. Chop, chop, Look at healthier alternatives with food. He said that there's plenty of information online and that if I wanted to see a change, I would have to let go of my drug and drinking habits. So I went home and I took a good, hard look at myself in the mirror. Here's the thing about the mirror. It doesn't lie. You cannot lie to yourself while looking into your own eyes. Okay? Like, try it. Try going and looking in the mirror and try lying to yourself. See what happens on the inside. You get a sense that it's impossible. Okay? I actually cried out to God. Okay? And I did not hear Morgan Freeman from the sky or anything like that. But I did get peace and clarity at that moment. And the next steps were simple. I got a prompting to delete all 500 phone numbers from my phone and get a new phone and number. No calls going out, none coming in. And I started over. I did that. I quit drugs. I quit drinking. And I directed all my energy to the gym. And I actually lost over 100 pounds within 6 months of making the decision to change. I then studied kinetics and nutrition. Okay. And like, this is a very, like, I'm not going through all the details here. I'm trying to keep this to the point, but I studied kinetics and nutrition, became a personal trainer, and then a head trainer at one of Edmonton, Alberta's largest gyms within the year of all this happening. I was featured in a magazine and found myself responsible for things I never thought possible. I was enrolled in a few sales and marketing courses within the company. And after about a year in the position, it occurred to me that I could apply what I learned to my love of music. And I thought to myself, how hard could it be? That's an interesting question. If you look at the percentages of how many people actually make it in the music industry, how hard could it be? But the idea, it expanded quickly, and suddenly I started taking audacious action yet again. I downsized to being able to fit my clothes and most of my belongings outside of my instruments into a little blue bag. And I joke about how I used to live in a van down by the river while singing for my supper. I couch surfed and played to a lot of bartenders. I'm going to get into more of the story here in a second, but like, can you see the painful yet undeniable progress?
Yeah.
Now, have you or are you currently struggling with something in your life? Now, I'm going to ask you as the listener to write down some of your biggest challenges and pains that you've lived through, that you're going through, or that you're going through right now, and get ready to see your platform for purpose, okay? Along with how you can get to a point of leveraging your pain. Now, why am I sharing all this with you? Why is this important? In the last chapter, we talked about who you are being the ultimate driver and foundation of the process when it comes to turning your passions into profits. That includes diving into who you are not, including all of your painful experiences that are currently holding you back, and all of the future painful experiences that are going to try to distract you from your purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's now get into profession. I want to actually look up the definition of profession. Profession definition. Now, this is interesting. Okay. It says a paid occupation, especially one that involves prolonged training and a formal qualification, a career, a occupation, a calling, what you're called to do, vocation. And two is an act of declaring that one has a particular feeling or quality, especially when this is not the case, like a declaration, affirmation, statement, announcement, proclamation. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So declaration of your belief. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in a religion. I hate religion, but a profession of faith in Jesus Christ, right? A declaration or vows made in this, all that kind of fun stuff. So again, Google is pointing some things out that we are pointing out a little bit in here as well. Okay, so similar, again, yeah, career, occupation, calling. That's what I truly believe you got to figure out who you are, whose you belong to, what your calling is, why you're called to do it, and then how to back engineer it. That's the process we're going through here, right? So there are 3 points on Google definition search on April 7th, 2021. It's important that we have the date that when we got this, because I just think that, you never know what Google's going to change their mind on what a definition is, right? So to keep going here, in the beginning of my music career, I had this dream to play in front of thousands like most musicians. Okay. I thought if I were good enough, people would begin to do everything for me. And I thought for sure I'd find a manager that would book all my gigs so you could hold my beer while I kiss your girlfriend kind of thing. Everybody knows Aaron Pritchett, right? Aaron Pritchett's got, hold my beer while I kiss your girlfriend. Down, 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 down. No, I can't remember the rest of it. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. So I had to reference that a little bit. So this is not exactly a proactive mission, vision, and value system at the time. I know, but I also want to point out here really quick in the last chapter, we talked about our view. Listen to what I said here. I said, I thought if I were good enough, meaning if other people would accept me, I could accept myself.
Yeah.
I thought in my mind, if I were good enough, other people would accept me, I could accept myself. That is just so backwards.
Yeah.
Right? Accept what my creator has to say about me so I can accept myself. And then who cares if they accept me or not? Right? That's truly where the power is. Anyway, so how incredibly quickly I learned that this wasn't going to be that easy. Mostly because there were many other players out there that could play circles around me. There were way better performers that understood how to market themselves. And so the marketing journey continued. Now, I applied what I learned from the marketing classes I was enrolled in while being a head trainer, and I started associating with some great producers in both the audio and visual space. See, my journey brought me to this. I learned marketing and sales in that, and I brought it with me, right? I developed skills that helped me differentiate myself from the crowd. I started to organize and produce successful online crowdfunding campaigns through a system called Pledge Music. And I did enough to garner attention from top 20 artists and a Canadian Idol judge. And this allowed me to tour and play with some of the best in their respective fields and genres in the country and mainstream rock space. Fast forward, I'm suddenly working with an award-winning establishment touring all over North America on $1 million tour bus, sharing my skill set and my story with a mission to uplift and empower youth using music as the vehicle. And I spent roughly 2.5 years with this group on tour, and it marks the biggest developments of my life. Within this time, I was married and became a dad. And a month into my first son being born, my boy Micah, it all came crashing down. I went from living the dream, touring with the best of the best in multiple areas of expertise, from marketing, content development, presentation, storytelling, audiovisual design, you name it, to losing my dream job. When I was let go, I played the blame game, but it didn't help anyone or anything. When I started to take responsibility for my life in the face of my fear, things started to shift. It was not the greatest feeling in the world, but I owned up to my mistakes and I learned a lot. I would even go ahead and say that it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, even though it didn't feel like it at the time.
Let me ask something real quick in that. Do you mind saying when did they let you go? Like what year was that?
It was 2017.
Can you guys
2000.
imagine? It's only been 4 years since then. Like going from feeling what he says there, where it was like really hard at the time, wrestled with everything, just had a new baby, like probably feeling a little bit desperate.
Oh, dude, we just like I got cut off from income, and I
Yeah,
got this over $300,000 home that I just bought, brand new home. The house
yeah,
was built just a couple of years before, and I got no way of paying for this because like I was being paid on another level. Okay, like I was being paid like without getting into the actual numbers. Like it was close, not quite, but close to six figures.
yeah,
And it was like what they said, a tier two paying like teacher salary kind of thing. Like it was something that I had never dreamed possible to be able to make that kind of money playing music. Right? Like it
yeah,
was like I had benefits. They were I like free flights. Like we were flying all over the place and touring all over the place. We were either flying or we were on the tour bus. Food
yeah,
was taken care of, everything. Like I had benefit. Like it was insane. I'd never dreamed that to be something to be remotely possible because it was so niche. When I got let go, I couldn't just walk into any store and be like, "Hey,
right.
like this is what they were paying me," or any
Yeah,
any any place, and just be like, "This is what I was getting paid before. You should pay me the same thing."
yeah,
I didn't go to school. I had spent over a decade in the music industry, and for me to start over from scratch and do what they were doing or try to replicate or something like that it took them a decade to build what they built.
right.
So
Yeah.
I was like,
And
I
it's
was
it's just
literally starting over from scratch.
it's fascinating to me, like going through something like that, and it's probably not even been 4 years, around 4 years later, and look where you're at now, like it's not a long time. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, 4 to 5 years is nothing, you
It's
know?
true. It's
So
true.
anyway,
And a lot of people are going through what I went through then now.
yeah,
Like a lot of people are losing their jobs and having to start over from scratch right now.
yeah,
And it like my heart goes out. I get it. I feel it. I understand
yep,
it. It's why we're doing what we're doing. Like you understand, like we're a part of some pretty elite groups, man. Like
yeah,
we're a part of a thing called Grits right now.
yeah,
And you're gonna learn more about all these things at some point, I'm sure. Like we're not gonna be able to hide it. But like we're working with some like guys that are raking like
like
eight, eight,
we're
eight,
talking,
nine figures.
yeah, like one of the guys, I think he's like million a month kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And we're in like a three-way chat with that, right? Or
Yeah,
four-way chat with that right now, like and so like we're again, to me, this is my calling. My calling is to help you to turn your passion into profits.
yeah,
Now, I also believe in systems. If you look at what's his name, Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Robert Kiyosaki.
Robert Kiyosaki, does that mean that that's all you do at some point? No, at some point you can make your money work for you. That's the phase that we're moving into right now.
Yeah,
Making your money work for you. Okay, so that's buying back your time, right? Like I don't necessarily have to like something or to do something. Like I don't have to do something once you've generated. Like we're not going to teach on that here today, but that's the point. You move from employee to self-employed, where you're both trading time for dollars in both of those areas, and then you move to business owner, which is where Zach and I are, and then you move into investor, where you make your money start working for you. So you can just like literally put the money into something and then like let it go, let it go do
yeah,
its thing, right? And that's sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some, but that's where we're moving right now. We
yep,
have built this thing up to where our systems and processes are working. We built our freedom frameworks, and we're constantly evolving. We're constantly making it better. And
yep,
sometimes we push harder than others, and sometimes we need to take on somebody new to be able to help us to reach those goals. But now we're moving into that new phase, right? And that's important. Like do what you love, figure out a way to monetize it, and then figure out a way to make that money work for you. It's super simple, right?
And it might not be like investments right away. Like it could literally just be ad spend, right? Like because your ad spend is going to help to continue to grow your business, your passion. So anyway, yeah, let's
exactly. So even though that knowing that taking responsibility was the right thing to do, I wrestled to realign my passions with my profession again. I felt like I was jumping from one thing to the next. I felt like I just kept quitting. But deep down, I knew I wasn't a quitter. There were reasons for the seasons, and I kept looking for my purpose, not realizing that I was living it out through the process. I was living it out through the process. Okay. I needed my pain to get to today. It was extremely humbling, and there are still off days, and there are still humbling days. Trust me, but it all makes sense. Nothing was wasted. Nothing is wasted. If you choose that you failed, that's your outcome. That's all you're going to continue to get. I look at it as learning. It's not failing, it's learning. We are learning at a fast pace. We probably fail 10 times more than each and every one of you listening right now every single day.
Yeah.
Because we're constantly moving and grooving. And we saw one today where we're like, oh, we can't, like, I see, like, I can see, like, and we didn't see the material of there was a miscommunication thing that occurred with a potential client. And something like we didn't see it while it was happening, but then we were able to kind of take a look back and be like, there it is. We're not doing that again. Like, and it was really as simple as we knew that the offer that we had prepared in our last meeting was not the right offer. And he was adamant that he wanted to see it anyways. We should have never showed it to him because it was not what he wanted. We already knew that. Why the hell would you show it? But we did it because he requested to see it. And next time when we know, and we even outwardly say it to them, we will literally say, you know what? No, I think based on if we're good listeners, we know this isn't right. So let us come back, right?
Yep.
Is what it is. You learn. It was an expensive learning curve. And it might not, honestly, it might not be over, but it's an area of learning that I just know that it could be way more efficient by cutting that out. So anyways, let's keep going here. So every course, every certificate, every long night studying, waking up early to dig deeper to find that next element. Every time I stopped one venture to start another, and I went through many, okay? Like a lot of you are in a lot of different MLMs and all that kind of stuff. I went through a ton, okay?
Same.
It wasn't quitting. It was developing the bigger picture to bring it all together. From the micro perspective, it sucked. I didn't understand it. But from the macro perspective, it was necessary. The right people were placed in my path, and I was able to realign my passions with my profession and found that my purpose was never gone.
Yeah.
My purpose was never gone. And that's the secret to aligning your passion with your profession and your profession with your purpose. Realizing that your purpose is always there. You need to understand that, okay? And as you can see, I've experienced it all. I've experienced amazing highs, and I've lived through some incredible lows, and I've been able to build momentum and experience great success. Then I had to start all over from scratch. Now I'm writing this to you today. I'm a premier marketing and advertising agency owner. I'm a digital strategist. I'm a digital radish. No, I'm a digital strategist. I'm a high performance coach, speaker, and now I'm a writer. I'm actually like, if you want to get like right down to it, I'm a #1 international best-selling author right now. Like on Amazon. It's not a New York Times best-selling book yet, but I took a step in the right direction, right? So P number 3, your purpose. Let's look up purpose definition. Purpose definition. So the reason for which something is done or created, or which something exists. And this, I want to come back, okay, and let's look at this again. Have as one's intention or objective. God has allowed suffering, even purposed it. This is Google. Google's saying this. Everything that I'm just saying right now, Google's saying this. Okay? And I believe, again, that you were created to be creative. That's your purpose. And everybody's got a different layers of what that looks like. You're not meant to do everything, but you've got certain aspects of things, right? So what's the secret sauce? Why was I able to accomplish a level of success that most spend a lifetime striving to achieve, not once, but twice, after a massive blow that had the potential to cripple me and leave me bitter and angry? I understood that driving purpose into success would ignite a sense of significance. And I understood the importance of understanding and developing a why for everything I wanted to accomplish and for the people I love most. Even more important was learning that there's 2 layers to a why when it comes to back engineering your goals. I also understood that then the next steps were to discover the what and the how with the why in mind, as we went over in chapter 1. Right?
Yeah.
So who you are, what you're called to do, why you're called to do it, and then how to back engineer it. Okay. But when diving into your why, there's more to it than you might think. Asking why is powerful, but what if there's more than just your why to you? What if there's a why to the world, or at least the people that mirror your why? When I figured out that my why is a reflection of me and what I want to attract, it changed my life forever in the best ways possible. So let's break it down. Number 1, there's a why to you and your immediate ecosystem, which for me is my family and our desire to live out our passions together while experiencing freedom, doing the things we love with the people we love most. I also, I think I need to revamp this because I got to tell you something. When you know who you are, your why will become more clear. And I'll tell you what, here's the reality. When I say, which for me is my family and my desire to live it out through passions together and experience, I want to go ahead and go deeper, and I'm going to do this on my own time, but I want to live out God's plan for me. And here's why. Here's the reality that we didn't kind of get to go into chapter 1 as much as I would have loved to. But my kids and my family can be taken away from me.
Yeah.
That thought sucks ass, doesn't it? My kids and my family could be taken away from me in the blink of an eye. I actually have a friend whose daughter fell from her bunk bed, seemed fine one day, and was in a coma the next day. And within weeks, she's gone.
Yeah.
So you put your entire identity in that, and what happens when it's taken away from you? It's the same, not the same in the sense that, okay, if we go back to my dream job.
Yeah.
I was living my dream. Was so much of my identity was this rock star or this musician thing, and it was taken away from me. I was rocked. My identity was rocked. So this is why it's important to understand who you are first and really get a sense of what you're called to do. And then your why will begin to uncover. So I got to be honest, my why needs to be revamped in point number 1 here. It needs to. And I wrote this in the last book that was published. So, hey, there's your imperfect action, right? Number 2, there's your why to the world, which for me is to echo point number 1 by helping others achieve the same thing, resulting in more of point number 1. Okay. The what are the products and services which for me is our team's marketing, sales, and coaching courses that lead to our ad agency services, along with our high ticket items and multiple residual stream systems. Now, the 4 is how are the delivery systems and strategies. The how are the delivery systems and strategies, which for us is through social media advertising and educating online, face-to-face through events. We use DIY, DWI, and DFY systems and processes, which you're going to learn more about. And if you actually ever want to learn more or inquire about working with our team, simply visit convertoncommand.pro, www.convertoncommand.pro. I do need to revamp this, dude. Because in this, when I wrote this, our agency, there's a lot of things shifting and this is what I mean about evolution, right? Even this is evolving. After we write this in the next year or two, a lot of this stuff is going to be this is, I would say, highest level at this moment in time, but we're going to evolve, right? Everybody on this call is going to evolve. The approach in marketing and sales is going to evolve over the next few years. That's the reality of it. It's always evolving.
Yeah.
Okay. So now at this point, you might be asking yourself, what are DIY, DWI, and DFY systems and processes? DIY stands for do it yourself. DWI stands for do it with you. And DFY stands for do it for you. And we still run these three very heavily. And we're creating a lot of DIY, creating like crazy right now. Now, this book, the group coaching and the course that comes with it is considered DIY. And by the end of this book, we're going to share with you some options for DWI as well as DFY. And now you're not obligated. And I got to make a note of that because we actually have to fulfill on that promise. But listen, you're not obligated to purchase anything, of course. We're simply going to share with you some options that may or may not be for you, and also illustrate that you can do it for yourself and your own business to set up your own freedom frameworks.
Yep.
And that's basically it, my man. I'm looking forward to your feedback because this would be the first time that you actually going through this.
Yeah, love it. I love it to death. And I agree with your order. I think purpose should be last there. It's like purpose is like something that you can't just come up with. It's like you almost have to go through the first two P's for you to identify your purpose a little bit.
I think ultimately too, it's the order in which, like, it's not that it's the order that it's the third thing that occurs, because I do say it in the chapter too, that you always have it.
Right.
You have a purpose. Now it's like understanding your passion and watering your passion to get to that place of fulfillment, right? Like watering those seeds that are inside of you. And it comes through work ethic. It comes through working for it. It comes through going for it. It comes through taking imperfect action. It goes through that process, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to decide on your what. Your what is the profession,
right?
Like you understand who you are, what is it you're looking to do, why you're looking to do it, and then the how kind of becomes more clear. The purpose for all of these steps becomes more clear. Yeah. So I would say that there might even be two layers to a purpose, because you already have purpose, but the clarity and the intentionality becomes more clear as you go, right? So I might have to articulate that a little bit better.
And what's interesting is that's like a lifetime pursuit.
Always.
Right. Which is why you can't like, I like it at the end because it's almost like it's the ongoing step, right?
Totally. And that exactly. Because we talk about it, like false beliefs. Yeah. False beliefs will pull you away from that.
Brian and I go through this all the time, guys. All the time, where we have a purpose, we have a mission, vision, values, which I know we'll get to that chapter. But we have these things in place, and yet we find ourselves in a spot on occasion where we're like, dang it, we got distracted. Let's bring it back.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
And it's just part of the journey, and you have to be kind of forgiving of yourself, and then realize that it's just part of the learning curve, and let's just keep going, moving forward.
Exactly. And that's why I love the power of Jesus and forgiveness without going overly religious again, like this, because it's not about religion, but it's about that process and that relationship and understanding that you can start over today.
Yeah.
The screw ups and the sins and all the crap from yesterday, today, and tomorrow have all been washed away. The game is already finished. The game is done. It's done. It's finished. And so you can start over today, all over again. You made mess ups, you made screw ups, but so many of us put our identity in all those screw ups.
Yeah.
Right. We put our identity in all of the things that we messed up in, and we let it continue to shackle us and hold us back.
And it's interesting too, like, that more than most people because of your issue that you have with the addictions, and things like that. Now, I have some experience there, not for myself, but my wife, okay, who is a recovering alcoholic and things like that. And I understand what that's like one little slip up, and all of a sudden she felt like everything she had worked so hard for was like worthless because she had one slip up, and she had to like learn how to forgive herself and move forward.
May I speak to what you just said?
Yeah.
You used the term she's a recovering alcoholic.
She yeah, okay.
I am, I just want to exercise this really quick. I am is the most powerful thing that you can ever say. Right. And I think I said it in chapter 1. I identified with myself as an addict,
Right.
but I'm not an addict.
You
I have an
to.
addiction. I
So
identified with myself as being fat. I'm not fat. I have fat,
so
but it doesn't define me.
how do I word that better? So she used to be a recovering alcoholic, or
I
no?
mean, it really it's her journey to identify with that for herself and
Okay.
what that looks like. You said that, and that's probably between the conversations that you have. And if she's already identifying with that, it's not for me to say, and it's really not for you to say. You may have said what's right for this time because that's what she's identifying with it. But I would go ahead and challenge that and say, look,
Yeah,
you're not that.
she's
That's
like
not who you are.
she's like 3 years sober. She's
Yeah.
doing great. It's like it's one of those things where she says it's often, even just going to a store, just going into a gas station, the temptation is like always there.
Right.
So yeah, I wonder how her and I can identify that better.
Well, here's
That's
here's the
awesome.
thing. Here's the thing that you can do though too from a place of empathy. We've all got an addiction to something, bro.
Yeah,
Right?
I've got my
I don't
own.
care who you are.
I've
I
got my own
mine
problems.
the
Yeah,
phone.
your
A
phone,
sin is a sin is a sin, bro. Like if you
video
idolize
games.
something, if you
Um,
idolize something,
yeah,
yeah, you get
yeah.
stuck in it. And
The,
so whether or
also,
not one
even
is not
money.
worse, exactly, and one is not worse than the other. Everybody
Right.
gets the sense that one is worse than the other. They can be just as damaging in their own way if you let it if you let it rule you.
Yeah.
If you let it rule you. I'm having a Caesar tonight. I was sober for over a decade.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the interesting thing of where I'm at. I've got a massive bottle, Texas Mickey, of vodka at my house. Okay. It's been in there for a long time.
Yeah.
I had a few drinks a few weeks ago, and I have not had any desire to have a drink since. I'm going to have one tonight with my buddy, um, Bob, my old personal trainer. He's the guy who actually helped me go through the journey of weight loss. Go figure, right? So I'm having a drink with him tonight, okay? Um, and my point to this is that I don't like it does not rule me. I've got no desire to drink every day. And as a matter of fact, my guidelines are I will not drink to try to reduce my stress. I will not drink to try and make a poor situation better. I will have a drink to celebrate with my wife. I will have a drink to unplug. I actually had a doctor, believe this or not. I was admitted in the hospital. I had a doctor a few years ago, actually a couple of years ago now. He was my family doctor. He's not here anymore in Carstairs. I think he's got a place in Calgary now. I actually want to go actually see if I can go see him at some point because he was awesome. But I had never heard a doctor say, "Why don't you have a drink this weekend?" Like, have a barbecue, let go, let loose, have a drink this weekend. And I was like, "You're a doctor telling he's like, are you allowing that to rule? Is it a bad thing to have a drink with your family and your friend?" And like, he really kind of like, I would not suggest that. My suggestion is not for somebody who is at a place where they got that feeling where you're talking about how your wife is struggling internally with that.
Yeah.
This is never a good time to introduce that.
Right.
I am now past that where I do not allow that to be my identity. I don't identify with that. My internal dialogue is not with that. I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker.
Yeah.
I don't even talk about trying not to smoke because trying is still identifying. Trying is failing with pride. I'm not a smoker. I don't identify with being a smoker. The day that I quit cold turkey was the day I didn't identify with that. I didn't identify with being a drug addict. I didn't identify with that anymore. I identified with, I'm like, I identified with some other things that it became. So I'm not going to get into that today, but yeah, dude, like,
I get it.
I would never, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
It would not be my suggestion for your wife to be at that point where suggesting, oh, just have a, like, it would be though that's her journey. That's her conversation with herself. That's her inner dialogue. She needs to be the one to be able to decide that. And at some point in time in her life, she might be at a point where she does feel comfortable. And you now are going to have to go through a process of being all like, okay, I got to surrender you
Let
over,
do it.
let you do what you got to do, and love is to allow you to go through your process.
Yeah.
I don't always agree with my wife, but
Well,
love is,
I mean, even apart from our spouses, like even with kids, like there's so many instances where, you got to let them learn the hard way. It's like my oldest son is probably the best example. He doesn't live with us right now. He moved out when he was 16 to live with his grandma. Okay. And this was a decision he had made since he was 14. He's like, I want to move out when I'm 16, blah, blah, blah. And we said, fine, it has to be with a grandparent. And we told him so many things because the grandma he's with doesn't supervise anything, right? Which is how my wife got into drugs and stuff like that, okay? Because she doesn't supervise anything. And so we warned him, we told him, we said, look, it's going to be very different. No rules. You can't let that get to your head. He didn't listen. It got to his head. And lo and behold, months later, he calls us up and he's like, all right, guys, you were right. And it was just, sometimes they just have to learn the hard way.
You have to let them live, man.
All of us are like that in some way, in some capacity.
Well, even really quickly with my addiction, you want to know what really hit me, where I talk about, and maybe I need to put this in the book, when it really hit me that I cried out to God in the mirror and all that kind of stuff. That was a conversation that led to, I felt convicted. Okay. There's a difference between there was conviction and what's the other word that I always go to? Conviction and condemnation. Yeah. Condemnation is like, you get stuck in like being condemned, feeling alone, feeling abandoned, but conviction was, I know that I need to make a change, right? That's conviction. And that conviction came because my mother, I used to call my mom and I used to say, Mom, I need money for food. And it was true. I needed money for food, but I had a good job. I wouldn't have needed money for food if I wasn't making poor decisions with the money I was making. And so when my mom was not dumb and she was just say, Brian, look, I love you unconditionally, unequivocally, irrevocably. Nothing you could say or do can change that. But I want you to know that if you're in jail, I can't help you. If you're dead, I can't help you. If the well runs out, I can't help you. Meaning, like, if I run out of money, like, I can't help it. But if it's in my power to help you, I will. And some people would have said that I was in like being entitled and all that kind of stuff, but it led to me just saying, I can't do this anymore.
I think
just like with your son, he's like, you guys were right.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of love for people is letting them learn their own way. And as much as it hurts, because sometimes it hurts, right? It sucked letting my son move to Wisconsin and being so far away from him. That was not easy.
And it sucks letting our clients go know that they're going down a shittier road, and people that have decided to stop doing Passion of Profits with us. And I just know that.
Yeah.
But I can't. You can bring a horse to water. You can't make them drink.
Right.
It's the reality of it. But anyway, we're going to tie this up. Listen, I promised you we were going to show you these two links. You can actually go get the whole digital book experience for season 1 here. If you just go.convertoncommand.pro/passion to profits digital book experience. And you can do that all one word, or you can actually put dashes in between every one. So go.convertoncommand.pro/passion -profits-digital-book-experience. And then the other one, if you want to get season 2 and where we're at, we're literally uploading season 2 here. You can see these buttons and all that kind of stuff if you're watching this on the video. And you can get the experience for season 2. And all it is go.convertoncommand.pro/passion, 2, profits, digital book experience, season 2. And awesome. That's it from us today. We love you. All the best in health, wealth, and relationships. And we'll chat soon.
See you guys.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Convert on Command podcast, sponsored by Convert on Command and Mission Ignition Marketing. If you want to ignite your business and increase your sales, Be sure to visit convertoncommand.pro and set up a time that works best for you in the calendar at the bottom of the page under the latest feature video.